Let's talk about something that is pretty much a nightmare for any property owner: water damage. A burst pipe, a flooded basement. It's one of the most stressful things you can go through. But what really happens after you make that panicked call for help? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and walk through the entire water damage restoration process. So just picture it for a second. The water is rising, your heart is pounding, and you're thinking, what on earth do I do? But right after that, you're probably wondering, what's supposed to happen next? That's the question we're going to answer, step by step, so you know exactly what to expect when the professionals show up. Okay, the first thing you have to understand is this. The moment you see water where it shouldn't be, a clock starts ticking. A very, very important clock. That first hour isn't just about cleaning up a mess. It's about stopping a small problem from spiraling into a massive and way more expensive disaster. See, the immediate enemy isn't just the water you can see. It's what that water makes possible. In as little as 24 hours, just one day, mold spores that are already in the air can settle on a damp surface and start growing. Every minute you wait is basically giving them a head start. This is why quick action is mold prevention. And that's why the industry's first line of defense is just pure speed. That 60-minute response time you always hear about, it's not just some marketing gimmick, it's a critical strategy. Getting a team on site that fast means they can start pulling water out immediately, which drastically cuts down the risk of that secondary mold damage we just talked about. So when the pros arrive, they bring order to all that chaos. They don't just rush in with pumps. The very first step is always safety. Are there any electrical hazards? Is the structure sound? Next, they inspect. And this is cool. They use tools like thermal cameras to see exactly where the water has gone, even if it's hiding behind walls. It's only then that they start extracting the water and removing soaked materials like carpet padding, which is basically a giant sponge. All right, once all the standing water is gone, we move into the next phase, the science of drying. And I really want to emphasize that word, science. This is so much more than just pointing a few fans at a wet spot and hoping for the best. It's a calculated process designed to pull moisture out of the very structure of your home. This slide really shows you the night and day difference. A DIY job with a shop vac might get the surface dry, but it leaves moisture trapped deep inside the drywall and the wood. Professionals, on the other hand, use this powerful tag team of high-velocity air movers and massive industrial dehumidifiers. Together, they create an environment that literally forces that hidden moisture out. It all comes down to a field of science called psychrometrics. Now, I know that sounds super complicated, but the idea is actually simple. By precisely managing the temperature, the humidity, and the airflow in the room, the pros basically convince the hidden water molecules to let go of the building materials. They evaporate into the air, and that's when the powerful dehumidifiers can grab them and get them out for good. And you might be wondering, how do they know how to do all this? Well, they're not just guessing. The entire industry follows a very specific rulebook. It's called the IICRC S500 standard. This document lays out the proven, science-backed methods for everything, making sure that any certified tech who shows up at your door is following the same effective playbook. So we get the process, but what actually determines how complicated a job is and, how much it's going to cost? Well, the single biggest factor is the water itself. Because as we're about to see, not all water damage is created equal. Now, this is really, really important. Technicians classify water into 3 categories. Category 1 is clean water, like from a broken supply line. Pretty straightforward. Category 2 is gray water, maybe from a dishwasher overflow. It might have some contaminants in it. And then there's Category 3, or black water. This is the bad stuff. Sewage, floodwater. It's heavily contaminated and a serious health hazard. Each category requires a totally different approach to safety and cleanup. That contamination category is obviously a huge driver of cost, but it's not the only thing. The final bill is going to depend on a few key factors. How big of an area got wet? What kinds of materials are we talking about? Is it porous hardwood or solid concrete? And of course, how long does all that specialized equipment need to run to get the job done right? And this brings me to a huge benefit that often gets overlooked, the documentation. The pros are experts at this. They create these incredibly detailed reports with photos, thermal images, and exact moisture readings. This isn't just for their own files. This is the hard evidence that your insurance company needs to process your claim without a lot of back and forth. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. The water's gone, the equipment is running, but how do you know when the job is actually finished? This last phase is all about monitoring, having a little patience, and hitting a very specific scientific target. First off, this is not an overnight fix. A typical drying job takes anywhere from 3 to 5 days, sometimes even longer. The technicians will come back every single day to take new readings and tweak the equipment. I know it's tempting to want it done faster, but trust me, rushing this stage is probably the biggest cause of future mold problems. And that leads us to the single most important definition in this whole thing, the dry standard. Dry isn't just about how something feels to the touch. Nope, it's a number on a moisture meter. Every material in your home has a normal, natural moisture level. The job is only truly done when the pros can prove, scientifically, that the affected wood is back below 15% moisture, which effectively slams the door on mold. So, that leaves us with the final question, right? The equipment is packed up, the bill is paid, but how do you know that it's really and truly dry? You know because you've seen the final report. You've seen the documentation showing that every single affected material has met its specific dry standard. That's scientific proof. That is your ultimate peace of mind. It's how you know your property is safe, secure, and genuinely restored.